Good morning. Thanks for being here bright and early. There's not so many, but there will be many more by the time we're rolling here. I'm Linda Mariano. I'm the Managing Director of Marketing for Redwood Media Group and Artexpo New York. And this morning, bright and early, you've got an incredible panel sitting in front of you. Designers, artists, sculptors, gallery owners, fine art photographer. You've got a full range of experience and an incredible cumulative body of work. They're here to share their expertise with you, to give you tips, hints, as well as the benefit of their successes, their challenges, and their goals and strategies for the future. So enjoy it. Michael?
Thank you, Linda, for that introduction. Good morning, Art Expo 2018, Sunday, the last day. Anybody that's in the earshot of us this morning, come on over, sit down, listen to the industry insiders, and take away some tips. It's very important. With that said, yesterday I was here. Part one of the seminar was building a viable art career, the sort of ins and outs, and as Linda said, my experience in the industry, 25 years going. The panel that I invited up here today to join me are all individuals that I've built relationships with over a long period of time. Some of them are maybe a little bit newer, but we feel like we've been together for a long time. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce from my right going left in no particular order that they chose their seats. Anthony Chimay, creative art director, designer, award-winning artist as well. We've had our relationship together for the past 12 years. Anthony was discovered as a top graduate, award-winning gold medal creative at his school, and we immediately bonded and said, hang on, we'll see if we can make some dreams come through together. We've been like brothers ever since, and in all essence of that, the good times, the bad times, the challenges, the awakenings and agreements, and lots of many lunches. And so welcome Anthony Chimay, and we'll get back to doing some Q&A in a little bit. To his right, Debbie Schonberger is art design consultant, corporate art consultant, designer. I'll let her, I think she has a mic. Do you have a microphone in your chair? You'll fill me in, correct me. That's ADC, I believe, and that's the, well, she'll tell you, and they'll all get a chance to tell you exactly what it is that they do. How I know them and how we've got to our careers together is Debbie has been one of my top clients, purchasers of my own artwork. Pivotal today, and I asked her to come down here because artists always ask me with my company today, with Art Blend, after 20-something years, how I got started. And Art Expo was one of the most important things that I did. One of the best investments that I made in my career was coming to Art Expo. And I mentioned yesterday that things will happen if you apply yourself. And invest in yourself. So Debbie and I believe that we met at Expo. I think it was in 2006, 7, or 8, and we've built and nurtured a long relationship together. So I'll thank you, Debbie, and we'll talk back in a few minutes. To her right, new to my circle, and again, what a sort of immediate friendship. Erin Bassett is a very, very talented artist, a standout. I feel that inside, if my spidey senses are not incorrect, that she will be a standout artist. You'll have a long career. You'll be very successful, and you'll fly the coop. And maybe once in a while, I'll get a postcard in the mail. You're going to be phenomenal. So, Erin Bassett, I'll let her speak on her own behalf a little bit, and learn about her artwork and Q&A with Erin. So down the line, all the way to her right is not too new. We've developed a relationship together. Erin is Megan Meehan is multifaceted. I had a stumble there because we were talking this morning. And I said, man, you do as much as I do. You wear as many hats as I do almost. So artist, talented author, writer, and a
Associate curator.
Associate curator for a gallery in
The
Long Island.
Demuzzi Contemporary Gallery in Rockville Center, Long Island.
Excellent. So with that segue, we're going to work our way back. Tell them what exactly it is that you do and a little bit about your backgrounds.
Well, hello everybody, first and foremost. I am a writer. I work as a journalist, and that is actually how I met Michael Joseph here in 2016. And I use my journalism to write about artists, and I always loved, giving artists exposure. And through my journalism work, I met Michael Joseph, and then I started writing for Art Blend. Well, it used to be Art Blend magazine. Now it's Art Blend book. So what we do is that we create these beautiful. Every artist gets 2 pages, and we get 2 pieces of artwork in the pages, and then we have this little biography of the artist and a quote from the artist, and it just gives people an idea of what the kind of artist that we have at Art Blend Gallery. One thing you will notice when you look in the book is that there's a very wide range of styles. So even though a lot of the work in the gallery is abstract and colorful, we are open to all different types of styles, which is, I think, wonderful, because everybody has a different preference for media and style and a little bit of everything in here. So aside from that, I'm also an artist myself. I make sculptural wall hangings primarily, but I also do straightforward painting, sculpture, and I've gotten a lot of exposure through Art Blend through that, so I'm very grateful for that. And then I also am an associate curator for the Demuzzi Contemporary Gallery. It's in Rockville Center, Long Island. We are the only contemporary focused gallery in Nassau County. And it's run by a wonderful, wonderful curator and art consultant named Rain Amesh, and she has been in the business for many years. And a really beautiful array of work. It's a lovely space, and now we are starting to get ready to launch probably monthly art contest that will be held online. So that way it will be open to artists all over the world, and you don't need to worry about, shipping art back and forth, so that will probably be the next thing that we're starting as far as that gallery goes. But I'm always happy to write about artists. I'm always happy to help promote artists in any way that I can, be it through writing or curation and any leads that I get for exhibitions. So please feel free to approach me and ask for a business card if you think that you might have some work that you would like me to show Michael or show Rain or just write about.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
And with that said, part of my discussion yesterday, we were talking about the components of Art Blend. And the first component was that gallery exposure in multimedia marketing. And part 2 was books and printed media. And the third part was pretty much doing the art fair. So we're jumping right into this. And I think that Megan's background also is before she met me and started writing for my company for our book, you had established a career writing for an online or
I used to write for the Examiner before they shut down in 2016. So now I'm writing for, I have a column on Blasting News with about over 40,000 readers. I think it's about 44,000 now I'm up to. And then I also write for Entertainment Vine, which is a great website. And then, believe it or not, I also cover a lot of stuff in the toy and the game industry. So if you Google me, you'll see a lot of that come up. But I love writing for artists. I like supporting other artists.
Excellent. I'm going to, with continuing with this segment of the curriculum, Anthony Chimay was brought on early in my company. We were developing our brand, as I mentioned yesterday. The Art Blend was going to have a particular look and a style and a feel that we wanted, and we wanted to communicate that consistently. So I got together with Anthony. We had some lunches, and we were visualizing things. And early on, we started to make graphics for the website. We were making postcards and our business cards and some other one-sheets. The magazine was primarily the brainchild of Anthony. We were looking for something more involved and more long-term, something that in my company that we could use as a marketing piece that was much stronger, had much more conviction, lasting and staying power, that when we were coming to the art fairs, that it would be a great takeaway and would be used as a guide and a resource for the industry professionals. So Anthony, my first question that would be, in your experience after doing it for 10 years with me, is I was stressing to our listeners how important it was to have a consistent body of work and to reinforce how important it is to have quality captures of the artwork. So if you can add to that.
Yeah, correct. It is very important to build a visual brand of what your artwork represents about you. You want people to always be able to recognize the pieces as a cohesive collection so that they know this is the pieces that the artist came from. The best way to do that, to get people to make sure they could see that, is always to pay attention to the quality of the artwork that you're taking photos of, whether it's for a publication or for your website. I guess to add to that, in general, just especially now, to pay attention to your brand, your website, which is a must-have, any promotional materials, whether it's postcards, business cards, anything you want to make sure that it looks cohesive, because if people see it as a singular unit, something that they can always recognize no matter where it is, then you're always going to have that recognition.
Excellent. And I'm holding Debbie for just a moment. I'm going to let her out of the gate here in a second. It's very vital to where I'm directing this. So sit tight for a second, Debbie, because you're going to be the final voice and say at this, because it's very important. As I kind of foreshadowed yesterday that I mentioned that one thing happened out of that first show 20 years ago, and would set things up for me in my future. And it's predicated on what I'm talking about right now with the panel. So now, Megan, we also know how much we exercise that importance of writing, tone, and narrative, and the consistency there. So I'm not going to reiterate and spend much time on that. We know that that's important. When I first met Erin, we were bumped into each other in San Diego. What I had mentioned to you yesterday was that to do your homework, do your due diligence, recognizance work, check things out, make phone calls, get in person, not to just trust everything through an anonymous email. So Erin and I had the fortuitous opportunity of bumping into each other. And I think what really did it for me was the quality of your marketing materials. So tell us.
Well, I think that's super important. For me, the piece isn't finished until it's photographed professionally. That's all part of the branding. So, you can't finish a piece and then put it into an exhibition the next day. You have to leave time to photograph that, so then you can send it out for press releases and put it on your website, and it has to be branded. Lighting has to be consistent. You have to have really good quality images, because the physical piece, as Megan mentioned, you're not going to be shipping that all over the world, but you can send a photograph all over the world, and it's how you're presenting your art. If your art isn't presented in the best light possible, then people aren't going to take you as seriously. It needs to be consistent with your brand.
And would you say it's pretty competitive out here?
Yes, very competitive.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
So without any more hesitation, now, Debbie, let's fill in the blanks here. Let's put the exclamation point on it that someone like yourself, the first day of this trade show, all day Thursday was to the trade day. And that is what Debbie does. She's in the business. She's an industry professional. And so, Debbie, tell us what it is that you do, how you walk through the show, and the setup based on the artists like myself and Erin and Anthony and Megan, and amongst all the others. Tell us that trade secret. What's clicking for you? What's working? Is my book working? Tell us. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm a corporate art consultant, and my company's Art Solutions. We do mostly corporations and healthcare facilities. So when I walk through a trade show, there's very specific looks I'm looking for. In the corporate setting, it's sort of more less emotional look. We can do abstract, we can do landscape, but it has to be appealing to all and not too controversial. So there's a very specific look that I'm looking for. In the healthcare setting, also there's a psychology in the healthcare. Certain colors evoke certain emotions. They choose usually to stay away from reds because it reminds people of blood. Autumn colors, which the autumn landscapes are always so beautiful, but it also signifies the end of something. So we try to stay away from things like that, things that are too blurry, because certain medicines will give you a dizzy feeling. So if you're looking at something that's more impressionist, you might feel a little uneasy. So when I walk through the shows, I'm looking for art that will fit in these categories.
That's excellent. That was some insider tips that you wouldn't really think of. That I'm a black and white architectural photographer, so I have a very narrow niche in what I can fill. And I do recall that when we got together, that was part of our relationship, that you did have a project that you felt that my work was a fit for. And I mentioned yesterday several times that I feel in my own experience that I impart that you artists may not try to be everything to everybody. Would you agree with that? And Anthony was also, backing me up and saying that, yeah, you've got to have a brand, you've got to have a look, you got to know what you do, and everybody on this panel, Erin and Megan, all have a very strong look to what they do, and that's what stood out to me, and that's what made it memorable. I think when I'm working a trade show like this, and I'm representing the artist, I have a very large booth, I have a lot of artists. I think that in my the message that I can give to them, as my experience with it, was that you have just a minute amount of time to stand out in a show like this amongst the crowd. And if you were walking by and you're walking, is that happening for you? Is that subliminal, or is it just conscious effort that you're just trying to have your eye taking something that's going to be an impact or leave an impression on you?
Yes, they're sort of the field that I'm in. I may like something, but it might not be appropriate for my clients. So I tend to look for things that would work for my clients. I've sort of distanced my own likes and feelings away from what I'm looking for.
Excellent. And I think I see Megan nodding her head down there as being involved as a curatorial with a gallery. I also have a gallery. I'm here with my booth and 75 artists with me today, and we mentioned that yesterday as well in several of the seminars is what is going on in our brains that we're doing, that we're, as a curator, to bring it all together. Could you comment further?
Yes, so basically as a curator, the main thing to remember is that art is extremely subjective. So different people like different things. So what you really have to look for is the quality. And like when I say by quality, I mean like you have to look to see how the artist applied, the medium to the work. Like basically like, I mean, this is kind of controversial because I know that there's some artists out there that will just like draw a crayon line on their paper and be like, oh, look, a piece of art. I'm going to sell it for thousands of dollars. But generally what we look for is artists that show a certain amount of maturity and how they apply the work to the canvas or sculptural work or whatever it is. But the other thing to remember when you're curating a show is most of the shows that we do are based after a theme. So for example, you want to look at this theme and you want to see how many different works can apply to the theme. Like let's say the theme is water, for example. Obviously some artists can come in with, landscapes that show, oceans and lakes. But water could also work very well for digital photography. It could work well for painting. Like maybe there's a painting that resembles water or waves or sea foam. So there's you have to kind of think about it through that point of view, like, how can this be perceived by different people? And then obviously, with different types of shows, it really, sometimes we're looking for a medium. So the medium shows are the ones where we can really, really branch out into different styles. Because, for example, if you say a medium like fabric, like you could have something like beautiful, like what Erin does, and everybody should stop by the booth to check out Erin's work because it's gorgeous.
Thank you.
But,
excellent.
basically, as far as fabrics go, somebody could do something really complicated and gorgeous like Erin does. And then there could also be some fabrics where people are maybe weaving threads to canvases, which I've seen, or even applying yarn to canvas, which is another style that I've seen. And all of that could work well for a fabric show because it's all a form of fabric, a form of material, a form of fiber. So really what you have to look for is just what people bring in, and even if it's something that might not, suit your particular style or your idea of what is pretty or beautiful, you should still definitely give it a chance because somebody else might see it and love it. And that's part of it. Art is subjective, and you always have to remember that.
Excellent. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And perfect segue, because in one of the other panel discussions that I was on yesterday, the question was raised, where are we going in the art industry and the techniques, the styles, and the mediums? And with my own background as a photographer and gallery owner, I'm excited what's coming out now, what's being done, and who better run this panel that what we have today is these individuals who are really stretching the boundaries of what has been traditional or typical. I'm said yesterday, look, I'm turned on. I'm also on the hunt for things that are different, unique, that I haven't seen before. I'm hearing that from my clients that they're, like you said, paint on a canvas, it's kind of flat. I've seen the abstract, right? Okay, and then we were also talking about, which I'll speak with Debbie about in a little bit, about trends and colors and subjects and such. But so I'm going to go to Erin on this one, as Megan mentioned first, that here's a young lady that really has pushed the boundaries in such a way that something I've never seen before. It really captured me. To see it in your marketing materials was one thing, but you really knew that you wanted to see it in person. So I don't know, briefly tell us how you came to that and what the reaction has been at the art show. Go ahead.
Well, just to touch on what you were saying with the marketing materials, because my work is dimensional, my marketing materials have to be right on, because I have to capture what you can't see in person in a photograph. So I try and take the best pictures possible, but it's really hard to see the texture. So what I do is I use fabric instead of paint. So I take fabric and I sculpt it in different ways. I use satins and silks, and I take flat linear fabric off the bolt, and I sort of sculpt it into a three-dimensional form using different techniques. And so a lot of times I'll sculpt different colors in batches. So I have all my different colors around me, and I take those fabrics and create my compositions that way, just as a painter does, lays all the paint on a palette and then puts it on the canvas. So my art, I started with drawing and painting. I moved into photography. I was a photographer like Michael, and now I'm sort of in my third phase of fabrics, and I really enjoy it. It's really fun.
It's like I said, it's brilliant. I think you'll have a very successful run with it until the next thing comes along in the creative mind, which was another topic yesterday. And Anthony and I were talking about, as creative types, we're completely always on to the next thing before we even finish the thing that we started. Megan also has 3D works or multimedia works. We're going to talk about that. But before I do go back, I want to speak with Anthony and Debbie, because now Debbie, with these new mediums that you're seeing, these different styles, is this the hunt for you as well? Do you feel that this is a trend going forward? A little bit on that, and then I'm going to come back to Anthony.
I'm always looking for new things and new mediums. One of the trends now that I find is everybody's into sustainable materials, as we are in all aspects of our life. Some of my clients, what they have is green office buildings where they do things sustainability. So if they could say the artwork is made with recycled materials or something that is more natural, that's always a home run.
That's interesting. Yesterday we brought up the all-encompassing, all-knowing, always on in my house HGTV channel and the shows that run, and kind of half joking about, Fixer Upper, where everything is repurposed, reused, purposely scratched, dented, broken, and drives my wife nuts. But I said, hey, that's it. And where's the fine line between in our art history where there was a movement called arts and crafts, and I had said, hey man, I don't care about that. The new generation doesn't care about that. If it's crafty, if it's kitschy, gimmicky, I don't know anymore. I just think that it's becoming all wonderful and it's fresh to see. So it's art. With that, now Anthony Chimay, his company Mint Art House. I like to call it the new generation, the millennial, if you will, for lack of a better term. Anthony, tell us more about Mint Art House, what it is that you're doing, and in your vision, where you see art and where it may be going.
So, the beginning of this year, actually, Michael and I were coming up with a concept to showcase artists at these events that didn't have the means to be able to afford a booth or have wall space. And it evolved from there into the company that it is now, which is a pop-up or a mobile gallery. So what we're able to do is represent artists in a digital platform with a digital presentation and through a publication at multiple art events at a real rapid pace. So we don't have to take physical pieces with us if we go to any art fairs or art walks throughout the year or any events like this. We're able to just take all of our art that's represented and digitally display them, and also talk about them and represent them in a catalog as well that we give away.
Right. No, I attribute to your generation, not mine, the social media and the power of the harness of the internet, and I've done everything to stay clear of it. But I feel that's the natural path of progression for it, that you take this digital technology, this platform, and now you can use it in a way to bring it to a critical mass, a bigger audience. And you had told me something about 5 years ago. We've had these fabulous lunches, and to continue to push the envelope forward and push Art Blend forward. But I'm an old dog and hard to teach new tricks. And your company was born, which was, hey, those are all great ideas, and we kept filing them until we said, you know what, why don't you do that? I'm going to pass the baton to a company like yours. I do see a great need for. It was a shared vision, but I think that is that what it's going to be. And if you told me 5 years ago, and here we are in Art Expo, 30,000 people this weekend. We've done Art Miami, 60,000 people over 4 days. It's just an incredible event, and that's the key word. Anthony said, Michael, these are events. These are, eyeballs on artwork. Tell us more.
Yeah, I'll start with the social media aspect. It's obviously very important to be active in social media, but it's a double-edged sword. If you're only relying on it, then you're going to find out you're going to get lost in a sea of literally billions. You have to engage buyers where the buyers are, which are events like this or an art fair or any type of art walk. In terms of, what was that?
So being in public is still viable.
Oh, yeah, 100%. In public, I think, is, from what I've seen, even more important than having just a social media presence or even a very large social media presence. There's a few artists that that I'm representing where their works are seen and liked in the tens and tens of thousands, but they're not selling online or they're not selling through social media. And where they sell are out engaging with the buyers, and when they have someone that can represent them and talk about their piece, talk about the artist, it's really important. There's a lot of buyers want to know what the piece is about and who they're getting it from to make that personal connection before they invest.
Okay, so before, I know Erin wants to jump in here, but I'm going to jump to Debbie because this is, I want to again hear from her. We see each other once a year, and this is it. But I know you just arrived this morning and may have not even got the chance to walk the show yet. But how are you going to react to this? How do you see it for your industry at looking at art, sourcing artwork through these online digital projections that are? I'm seeing more of them. I mean, just in the show, the LCD screens, the projections. It's this technology. Is it going to come to a point where that's going to be it? We're not going to have physical artwork on walls. We're just going to be looking at images.
I hope not. Is this on? Okay. One of the things that's changed in my industry, when I first started doing consulting about 22 years ago, I would go to a client with a huge portfolio of artwork, and I would actually physically take the artwork out, hold it up in their space, and show it. Probably the last 5 or 6 years, I do very little schlepping anymore, and most of it is research online. I've expanded my business to do national sales for corporations that have many offices. And what I'm finding is a lot of these branch offices want local artists. They want local scenes sometimes of their artists. So my work has become more of a research job, and I use websites and just different online searches to locate artists around the country. So it has really changed a lot. I do find still it is an easier sale to actually physically hold up a piece of art in front of somebody, but the specifications I'm asked for, like right now I'm working on a law firm that's from, the people are Brazilian and they want artwork from Brazil. Well, there's not that many Brazilian artists I can bring to them from New York City, so now I have to do online searches.
Oh, that's interesting. Very, very good. Erin?
Well, I find that it's both. It's physically being at the shows and exposing your artwork to people in person, particularly stuff like mine that's three-dimensional. But they ask, do you have a website? Do you have an Instagram? Do you have a business card? Sometimes they don't even take my business card. They take a picture of the business card. So it's everything. And when I'm getting ready for the shows, before Spectrum in Miami and before Artexpo here in New York, I'm on social media. I'm targeting people that I want to come see the work. I'm looking at corporate buyers and interior designers and people, and I'm doing my hashtags and I'm sending them physical packets of my pamphlets. So again, I think it goes back to your first question. Photography is absolutely essential, because if you're going to put something on social media, if you're going to put it on your business card, make a pamphlet, put it in a book, it has to look exactly the way it is. That red, that turquoise, in real life, when you bring it into the office, I'm sure it needs to look exactly like the picture you showed them.
Absolutely.
So it's all important. I don't think the physical fairs are going to go away, but I think the combination of social media, a digital presence on the web, and the physical show. So.
Excellent. Megan, want to add to this?
Oh, I absolutely agree. I mean, it is the mix is important. You need to get yourself known through social media, because that goes global, and that there's no borders with that. On the other hand, I totally agree with Erin, because I'm also a 3D artist, and honestly, if you have three-dimensional work, you can't really appreciate it in full until you see it at the shows. Like Erin's work looks beautiful in the photographs, but when you see it in real life, it's all the more breathtaking. I've written this book for Michael Joseph. I've written with him for many, many years now. I think like since 2016 or so, 2015, 16. And the photography in this book is fantastic. But when I walk the booth and see the work in person, it's just all the more special and all the more incredible. So I don't think these art shows will ever go away, especially when it comes to 3D work, because there is something very special about seeing it in person and seeing, going up close to the canvas and even seeing the way the paint was applied, even on like non-three-dimensional works. So it really is a mix completely, but it's especially important for artists that work with 3D elements.
I'm just checking with our engineer to see how much time we have left. How much time do I have? I have 10, 15. How much time do I have available? Well, wow. It seems like we've been, orbiting here. I I think maybe at this juncture we have a few at Mighty questions and answers for the panel. Anything that we quite have not gone over. I've asked the questions. Something out there that you would like to hear from us. Is there a microphone out there at all? Anybody?
Testing. Thank you. My question is to Aaron. I'm a 3D sculptural. I work out of wood. One thing that I'm experiencing with photographing my work is everyone always tells me, you got to see it in person. You can't really appreciate it until you see it in person. Is there anything that you do when you're photographing your work that can bring out some of that essence a little more? Excuse me, a little more, because I do online art contests. I do a lot of things online, and I want to be able to present my work almost as good as it is when it's in present. I mean, in the presence of the curator or collector. Is there any tips you can give?
Probably what I would say is you really need to pay attention to lighting. I like to do overall shots of the work because I tend to work sort of large, but then always include a detail shot. And a lot of times I'll go to the side or I'll do a different angle so you can see that the fabric is coming out from the wall. The other thing I would say is video. So if your work is really dimensional and you need to see it in person, then you need to either learn how to do really professional video or hire somebody and come in and actually move the camera around as if the person is live there looking at it. So if you have to see it in person, then try and do video as a way to show the work in the best light possible. Again, videos need to have it's just as important with lighting in videos as it is in still photography, but that's what I would say.
Great question and great answer.
Great question.
I just want to stay with that just for a little bit, because that brings up another subject that we opened up yesterday, video, and how important video was with online presence being found on the internet, that almighty SEO, and Anthony's company also builds websites, and how video works. And perhaps Debbie would like to tell us, is video working for you in your world? I mean, are you using it, seeing it? No, just still JPEGs one at a time. Erin, video, I know you're involved in doing video work. Are you having more requests from artists asking for video? Megan, I'm sorry, the two of you. I do that with my staff all the time. I just keep calling everybody's name until they answer. Yeah. Or they just know now to answer, right?
Yeah, I find that videos can be very useful. Actually, the most useful videos that I have ever come across is when there is an interview with the artist and the work is present. Those are the kind of videos that you really need. One thing that I did forget to mention to you guys is that whenever you get any kind of media attention, you must put that in your CV. You have to do that. Because basically a lot of galleries will only take artists that have a substantial background. It's not really fair because obviously, everybody needs to start somewhere, but a surprising amount, I would say an alarming number of galleries really won't take your work on unless you have, a history, like a basis, like something that they can look at and be like, oh, look, they had success here, or they showed here, or they showed here. So whenever you get a show, you have to put that in the CV, but it's even more important whenever you get any kind of media attention, whether it's an article, whether it's an interview, that also needs to go into your CV. And circling back to the video question, the best type of media that you can really have is if you get a video interview of somebody interviewing you, talking about your work, have the work with you when you're discussing it, and then they can kind of pan in and show it, like especially with sculptural, like 3D art, like what I do and what Erin does, because basically after you talk about your art, the camera can zoom in and they can throw this 360 degrees if it's a sculpture, or if it's like a wall hanging, they can zoom in and then show it from the sides, how it sticks out, and all like the little elements to it and the little intricacies of it. So the videos, as if you want a really successful time with video, you need to get like an interview of you talking about your art on video, and hopefully, no matter where that interview airs, whether it's on cable TV, public access, hopefully then they take the file and put it on YouTube, and that's the best thing that can happen, because then every single time somebody, searches your name, whether they Google it or they search it on YouTube, that will come up, that video, and that will be the interview and the video of your actual work. And so that's the best.
So I'd like to just add on that for just a second. I totally agree with you, and I think that artists need to be proactive in what they have. So every couple of years, anytime I do a new collection, I do exactly what you're talking about. I have several videos of me being interviewed with my work behind me, cuts to the work, that sort of thing, and it's all in my arsenal. So if somebody approaches me and says, I'd like to do an article about you, do you have anything? Do you have a CV? Can you send me images of your work? Do you have a YouTube channel? Do you have a website? My answer is always yes. I always have something. I never say, yes, I have a video, but it's a couple years old. No, I just made it. If I start to feel like I've had, like something's a little bit old, or my work has kind of moved on from that, make a new one. Invest in yourself and have that arsenal ready to go. Have a list of, if you do get press, keep copies of the magazine. Keep those folders on your desktop. I have a folder on my desktop that says press packet. If somebody approaches me and wants something, I got it.
Yeah. And that's
I don't have to go make it.
That's very, very important for us, because basically I love what you say that as an artist you go out and you make these videos yourself, you show your own work. That's very important, because unfortunately there's not a lot of journalists out there that will cover artists, especially emerging artists. Like the New York Times doesn't pay any attention to you unless you're making millions, or you're really making a huge impact. That's why when I got the position as a journalist, I decided, if I have the ability to do this for people, I'm going to use it to help artists. And I've had people come back to me and they've said to me, thank you so much for writing that article. Because of that article, I think it really helped me get into this MFA program, because I showed that I had actual media exposure. It got me into this show. It got me, onto this TV show, or it got me onto this public access channel, whatever. But all of that matters, so you have to build it up. And as far as what Erin said about having, information, that is so useful, because I specialize in Q&A. What I do is that I email artists a number of questions, and then I just let them answer at their own time. I don't have a deadline, so they can answer when they have time. But I always request, can you please send me a biography of yourself? Let me see some of your work. I usually Google it, find the website. But I always ask for a little biography, because I start my articles by drafting up a little bit of information about the artist, and by reading the biography and finding out about the artist and your background, it helps me tailor the questions and make them more specific. I don't just send out standard questions. I want to know about the artist's background, and then I can ask a little bit very specifically about the work or something that I know about them, and it makes the articles more interesting. I think it makes them more engaging.
Well, no lack of passion down there.
Thank you.
Fabulous. To that, you made me very aware of something, listening to the both of you, that I think that the four of us have in common. There was a common denominator to it. I know it certainly is with everybody on this panel, for me, in how it related to my career or the Art Blend company, which is one of the key elements of my success early on as a photographer, and carried over into Art Blend with my wife at the helm. I mentioned yesterday, she's the CEO of the company, and she is really the top dog in our company, and I work for her. So I think that for me, what I'm hearing is that I was the guy that was always ready. I was always on point, always had it, always answered the email on time. I didn't delay. I wasn't lackadaisical. And Erin, Megan down there is going to recant that she may not have a deadline, but I have a deadline. So when she's writing for the magazine, and Anthony, and it will tell you the same. The first thing that goes in the subject line is urgent. Because I do work on tight deadlines in the publishing industry, and actually in everything that I do. I was never lackadaisical or meandered in what I was doing, and there was a reason for that. It was installed in me. So but I'm going to jump right to Debbie on this too. Maybe testimonial that when a designer or someone like a consultant has an interest and they've shown interest in you by just a simple email, and it comes in the middle of the night or early in the morning, and they're interested in you. You know, the bell rings. I mean, it's it. School's out. You're on, and basically you. Tell us, Debbie. I mean, you got the job, you got the assignment, and we need presentations. You need it now, and do you have this, and this? In my career, there was no tomorrow. If I told her 5 o'clock, it was there at 1 o'clock, and that's just the way that I operated. I never said the word tomorrow, and I just didn't. I knew I maybe wasn't the greatest or the best photographer or artist. It's just that I found out that a lot more people were willing to work with me over time because I showed up on time, and I delivered. And hey, that was getting by. That was cutting it, and they could count on it. And I think that was basically nurturing the relationship. Go ahead, Debbie.
Well, I disagree. I think you are a great photographer. And I've used Michael even for commission on-site assignments that I've had. As I said, one of the trends is local landscapes or photography, and he's done a few on-site, just finding the unusual in the different areas if you know his work. But yes, to be prompt with responses. In my line of work, I normally work on a deadline where they're in construction, they want it opening day, it needs to be on the wall. I just had, actually, I was trying to get in touch with an artist for a project I was doing in Alabama, and I didn't hear from the artist for a few days, and unfortunately I had to set up a call to do a presentation, and the artist got back to me the day after the call. So, we proceeded ahead. So being timely if somebody's interested in your work. I know a lot of artists aren't always the best business people. So that's something that's very important.
Excellent. Right. So if you're not the right person to be, or feel that you're the right person to be representing yourself as the business mind, and I guess that's where you maybe can find someone to do it with you or for you, or kind of that's what Art Blend does. We do business. We work for our artists to help facilitate this and to have these conversations and rapport, because we understand and know how important it is. Artists may not be the best candidate to sell their own work or represent, and that way, my company, we're not managers, but we're agencies. We find the individuals and the opportunities for you to be in to have your artwork purchased. Now, little nod to this gentleman and kudos to reinforce what I'm talking about showing up and showing up on time. I go back to 10, 12 years ago in walking around the portfolio view at the college, and there was hundreds of people there that day, and time was of the essence. I was on the hunt. I had 10 minutes to find the best of the best for what I wanted to accomplish. And I took a bunch of business cards, 10, 15 maybe, that I was interested in. And that was early in the morning. I got back to my office by lunchtime, and I don't think it was later than 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I got this fabulous reply email, very professionally written, from Anthony, and quite quintessentially, I mean, that was it. That sold me, man. I mean, I don't think I took one other call after that. I said, this guy really just showed me what the exclamation point on what you were going to be about or what you were going to be like. So, do you feel, right? I mean, that what made you be like? You were a young guy, and to. Oh,
I mean, it's you just know it is incredibly important to be on time. I mean, Michael and I have dealt with. I'm an artist myself, but we've dealt with the types of artists who do take days to get back. And there's a lot of missed opportunities if that happens. There's deadlines that need to happen if they need, say, a website done or promotionals done, and we need their information, and we're going to an art fair, and we get it the day before, and we go, well, we can't have this for the art fair now. So, yeah, I'm wondering if it's going to be that it's speeding up as younger artists are just used to always being online. Maybe it's a generational thing. I wouldn't be sure if you guys deal with younger artists, if they are just more attuned to react instantly to a ding on their phone or what have you. But
that could be interesting. I think that is that we approach the middle age and our generation brought up a little bit differently. But I think there's still an etiquette. There's a sort of a time and true and tested curriculum for success. I sit with a lot of successful people, right to the top of the owners of this art fair who we've nurtured careers together. And I think that I like to read biographies of successful individuals, and I find that there is a common denominator there as well that successful people are doing. Megan's nodding her head. And conclusively, I found out that it's the way that they think and do. Go ahead.
One thing that I wanted to say with this is that you have to remember, if you're an artist, you have to approach it like any other kind of business. Even if you're not making art, even if you're not making money from your art, you still have to, take into just basic decency and basic, decency and consideration for other people, because it takes a lot of time to set up these shows and to set up even the art books. And as Michael said, when we set up the art books, we're on deadlines. Now when I do my articles, I'm not on a deadline, so I've had artists literally come back to me 9 months later, here are the answers, and it's fine, I can still put it out, then it's fine. But when it's with the art books, we need the work back, and we're not asking you for that much, we're just asking you for a basic biography. And you have to just put in very simple things into consideration. Like, for example, if we ask you to give us, a biography between, we're very specific. We say between a certain number of words, like between I think it's 150 and 250 words. Please try to give us what we ask for. Don't send us 2,000 word novels about you. Please don't give us, 4 sentences and tell us to work with that. It sounds funny, but I mean, this is the kind of stuff that we have had to deal with. Other times we get artists that we tell them, we tell them, for example, like the book comes out in January, so we try to go to press around, we try to have everything in by October, November. But we've had artists that we've contacted them in March, and then months later we're literally chasing them around, and it's as the only way that I can really compare it to anything is think about if you went to college. When you go to college, the professors can help you and they can teach you. That's their responsibility. But ultimately, it's your responsibility to write the papers. It's your responsibility to submit the work. You're an adult. They're not going to chase you around and, hold your hand and, do you have that done every, hour or so? They're not going to, harp on you. You have to do it yourself. You have to remember that this is a profession, and when you refuse to either follow instructions, you either don't give back the work at all or give back the work without following the instructions, you're making it very difficult for us, and that is really not fair, because your actions are impacting everybody else, and it's making it so that it's going to be more difficult to work with you in the future. And those type of reputations do spread. People do realize, this person's kind of flaky and they're difficult to work with, so let's not deal with them as readily. And so that's really what you have to remember. Just take into common decency and basic consideration for other people, because these books do not just take you and the writer to put together. It's a lot of people, a lot of deadlines.
Excellent. I jump in real quick, and then I would like to go back to the audience.
Well, quickly, I'd just like to say it is common courtesy. Be on time. I've had opportunities with Michael and with other organizations down south where I get calls because they know I say yes and I get it done. And so if you're not a good writer, if you don't like to write about your own work, a lot of times artists have a block like that. There are so many resources out there. So my press packet, I went on a website called iWriter, like it's the iPhone, and it's I don't know if you're familiar with iWriter. So there are these journalists and writers on there. So you let them know what you want. You say, go on my website, take a look at my work. I need an artist not an artist statement. I need a press release. I need a biography. I need to put it together in a professional way, and they'll do that. And sometimes it's as little as $5 or $7. You can also reach out to Help a Reporter Out. HARO.com is a place where reporters will put stuff out there. They want to write an article and they need a quote, or they need an example, they need a history, something like that. And you can get in a lot of magazines with Harrow.
And the key word, a lot of artists are needy. So
if you need somebody to help you out, if you need resources, find somebody else to do it.
I'm going to do 30 and 30 here. So we got the 5-minute mark, and rapid fire questions. This young lady has a question, and I want to get to it. So go.
Okay. This real quick, I just wanted to say thank you to Megan, and to touch on something she said about news articles. You did an article on me 2 years ago with the Examiner.
I remembered you right away.
If you Google my name right now, that article is the second thing that comes up.
Yes.
And I've had much success on the East Coast selling my artwork to many companies off of that article and my website.
I'm so happy to hear that. That's why I do it, because I know like a lot of artists need media, and unfortunately there's not a lot of outlets. So if I can provide that outlet for somebody, it's worth it. And I will say your work is beautiful, and everybody should stop by your booth. What is your booth number? 351. You got to stop by and see his work. It's gorgeous.
I think you really answered most of my questions. It was around the importance of being published. So I think Megan and Aaron pretty much touched on that.
And that passionate round side table that they had there. It was
Yes.
great. They're going to start their own show. They just met today.
Yesterday.
Back row, go ahead.
As far as video goes, for press releases and things like that, I understand, but what about on websites? How important do you think that is, having a 15, 20-second intro video on your website?
It definitely helps. I mean, as I said, it goes back to the whole CV thing. Even if you have your CV in a Word document, if you get a video link, put the link in the CV, in the Word document, just copy and paste it in. And if you have a website, try to embed the video somewhere on the website. You can even put like a section for your website, like media, and try to see if you can embed, like I know you can do it on WordPress, try to embed the video right there so people can go in and see the video when they click on your website, because then that shows that you've been covered by media. And I mean, even if you just do the video yourself, like what Aaron does, like it's great to show that, you know, what your work looks like on video anyway, but it's really important to do if you have media attention, because that can make the difference whether you get into a gallery or not.
There isn't a wrong place to put a video. Put it on Facebook, put it on your website, create a YouTube channel, put it in your CV. Like literally there is no wrong place to put media. Get a video, get your articles, get everything together, and just put it everywhere.
Anybody else? That's it. Questions? We've covered most of it. We've got a great panel. I appreciate you all joining me today. It's been a great discussion. We are booth 315. Megan, Aaron, Anthony, all be down there. Visit the Mint Art House. We are Art Blend. Thank you for all. We look forward to working with you in the future, right, gang? Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.